Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of the Moody Gooners podcast. Great to have you all with us as usual. As you can see, I'm here on my lonesome tonight to review the game just now that we've just beaten Brentford 1-0 in the Carabao Cup third round. So this is going to be more of a kind of instant reaction style format. But yeah, great to have you all with us. Please do like, subscribe, comment, the usual kind of stuff. And let's just dive straight into it. I mean, I think, what a great sort of victory. I mean, when I saw the draw before it came out, I thought, well, this could be quite a tricky one away from home against a team that, as we know, in the last few years have really built something quite special. In fact, coming into the game up until when they lost to Everton most recently, they'd only lost one game in the last 18 matches at home. So it's always going to be a tricky tie, particularly with some rotation on the horizon. We'll get into all of that. And yeah, but obviously I think, a lot of people don't take the competition seriously, but I'm very much in it to win it, as it were. And yeah, I think this was a very enjoyable game, all up. But yeah, anyway, let's just dive straight in, shall we? So when we saw the lineups, I mean, I think we all expected a lot of rotation. We obviously know a lot of that has now been forced with sort of the injuries in recent weeks to a lot of Premier League first team players such as Thomas Partey, Martinelli, Trossard. Declan Rice picked up a back spasm / calf injury, depending on what you read, in the game against Tottenham at the weekend. And then, Saka obviously limped off, and pre-match press conference very much suggested that he's, was definitely not going to be able to play tonight anyway, and not ruling him out for the weekend, but rumours abound that he's now going to be out for a while as well. Maybe not a long-term injury, but certainly been sort of pulled up with something towards the end of that game. So lots of rotation. But what we saw was still, one area we do have some good depth in is in defence. We saw Tomiyasu, Kivior coming into the team. Ben White, Gabriel still staying, retaining their place. And the main thing I think we kind of expected anyway. I believe that Raya was ineligible because he's technically on loan to us this season from Brentford, but Ramsdale coming in to take his place between the sticks. In the sort of the attacking parts of the field, Sago Jr. Took his spot in the starting 11 on that right-hand side of the attacking three. Eddie up there as well, and Reece Nelson, who's looked quite sharp, if you ask me, recently, taking his position there on the left-hand side. Interesting one with Sago Jr. So I think a lot of talk from Hale End has been Kozia Dubry as kind of being the potential heir to the throne, if you like, to Saka on that right-hand side of the attacking three. So I was quite surprised that he didn't get a nod, to be honest, ahead of Sago Jr. But it is what it is. He was on the bench. Shame he didn't get off the bench though, in the end. But yeah, an interesting lineup, a little bit of freshness in the attacking lineup, but I think still with that with that defensive line being chock-a-block full of experience. And having a guy like Jorginho shielding the back four, I always sort of felt we'd be quite solid. And I think what we saw when the game started, I think we saw the benefits of rotation. I think we saw us looking quite sharp on the ball, moving the ball quickly through the lines, looking full of energy. And it was kind of interesting because Brentford picked a lot of the kind of players that you would expect to see in the Premier League. So they had, Wissa and Mbeumo up front, Janelt, Norgard, people like that, Hickey at the back, and Flecken in goal. So they went with pretty much a full strength side. But I think potentially some jadedness from them in the first half. I do think the crowd was incredibly quiet as well, the home crowd in the first half, and Arsenal just sort of looked the more kind of controlled team. Again, lots of sort of possession, lots of control, and but moving the ball brightly, I think, is kind of what I sort of took out of it. Brentford didn't really create for. They tried to spring on the counter attack quite a few times with Mbeumo and Wissa, and try to sort of hit us quickly up the flanks that they kind of do. It's kind of their game plan. It seems a lot in the Premier League anyway, but not really able to kind of get much joy out of that. And looking at the chances we were creating, I think Smith Rowe had a shot that was saved. Nketiah managed to dribble through a few players, but then sort of took a heavy touch and wasn't able to get a shot away. And the only real chance, I would say, in the first half that they had was a really good ball in from the wide area from Norgard into Wissa, who sort of took his shot first time. And I guess the benefits of doing that are that, the goalkeeper can't get set as easily, but he didn't really have many players around him, and you kind of feel that if he'd taken a touch on it, he might have been able to do a bit better, because it was punched into him quite, at a bit of speed, and yeah, he sort of put it wide of Ramsdale's left hand post. But it's kind of interesting the first half. I kind of wondered psychologically, when you've got a lot of your second string out, whether the opposition are sort of taking us lightly. Maybe they didn't play with the kind of intensity that we'd maybe expect from them in the Premier League, or were we hard to plan to play against? Because there was a lot of, I guess before the game, Thomas Frank would have looked at Arsenal's lineup and gone, who's going to be in this starting 11? Obviously, some injuries in there, but no one would have picked Sago Jr., for example, to come out on the right hand side of the attack. So potentially some sort of areas, where maybe you look to the back four actually, and like all of that back four could play in all of the different positions. I mean, Tomiyasu, I thought had a fantastic game, centre back, blocking, heading out lots of chances, but he could easily, he could have played out on the left back with Ben White in the middle somewhere, and Kivior, can also play centre back as well, and he was playing at left back. So defensively, I think it probably would have been quite tricky for Thomas Frank to work out how to play against us. And that's the beauty of having good strength in depth, and also a level of versatility, which I think a lot of our defenders have. I mean, Gabriel and Saliba are pretty much nailed on in the centre, but all the other defenders we have really can play anywhere across the front line, across the back line. And Ben White and Zinchenko can play in midfield as well. So it's a great, that part of the team sort of does, give me quite a bit of confidence, I would say. But as I sort of, getting to the end of the first half, it was quite comfortable for us. And I think we looked at kind of the brighter side without creating a lot of goal threat. They had that sort of one chance, like I say, that Wissa, put wide, and we looked pretty comfortable. I mean, the goal was an interesting one. I mean, Jurgensen did a really dodgy back pass, which found Nketiah running onto it. And what I found really interesting about it is that the ball was travelling at quite speed, and Nketiah was able to take a really subtle touch on the ball, just to sort of slow the ball down, yet still keep the momentum of the ball running into his path, which was great. I think it was a really underrated touch. I mean, no one in commentary was really talking about it, but it kind of kept the momentum of the attack moving with that, but cushioned the ball slightly so that Eddie Nketiah could do something with it. And he cuts the ball back for Nelson. I mean, at that point, I don't think it was the best cutback in the world. It seemed to kind of go through Collins. Probably should have blocked it, if you ask me. And but then once he gets through to Reece, he's pretty much unchallenged around the penalty spot, and he can just take a touch and stroke it into the corner. And obviously, getting an early goal just sort of sets you up and sets up the tie for Arsenal to potentially win it. Obviously, always important to get that first goal, even if the job's not done. And I think going into the end of the the first half, it did look quite comfortable. Ramsdale did not have any kind of save of note to make in the first half, I felt. And in the first half, I felt that a lot of his passing was actually really, really good. It was kind of interesting how, I mean, I still believe Raya is generally better at his feet, but I did notice a couple of really nice balls fizzed in along the deck into Eddie Nketiah and Kai Havertz in that first half. Really nice sort of passing out from the back. But I think first half Ramsdale really didn't have anything to do save wise. It was all very sort of comfortable. But like I say, I mean, when it's 1-0 only, that Brentford are going to probably get a bit of a rollicking at half time by Thomas Frank and come out. And that's kind of what happened in the second half. I mean, they did take a little bit of a while to get into the game. I think the first sort of 5-10 minutes of the second half, kind of as you were, almost similar to what the first half was. But then I noticed the referee started giving them a few free kicks, sort of over on our left-hand side. There was one where Kivior just went shoulder to shoulder with a player, and the crowd sort of whipped up as a result, and they were getting free kicks, and yeah, I noticed the crowd sort of started picking up, and they started to kind of then start to play, sort of almost coming in waves at us. I mean, I saw, Hickey had a deflected shot that could have gone anywhere, but he was in a great position, and they kept sort of coming at us wave after wave after wave. But what I would say is, when I look back now, there were some good chances, but I wouldn't say at the time I was looking at it thinking they're really going to score here. It's just a matter of time. They weren't creating a lot of really, really, their final sort of action was lacking a little bit of composure and calmness in front of goal. They got into some fantastic positions, and maybe on another day we would have been punished, but nothing was really kind of, I noticed Johan Wissa took a shot high wide and not so handsome, sort of sliced it with his right foot, and we were starting to come under a lot of pressure. The crowd really did play their part. Interesting how they weren't really there in the first half, but the second half they really sort of lifted their team, I felt. And then, what we saw was, the chances starting to come. Zinchenko was brought on for Ben White, who'd been booked for time wasting at a throw. I was kind of looking at Zinchenko and I was thinking, can he not maybe come into the midfield and, potentially in for Kai Havertz and join Jorginho? Because Jorginho is he's 33 years old. He's not getting any younger. And very much that he played quite well, Jorginho, I think, all up. But I kind of wouldn't have minded Arsenal sort of like maybe just, rather than have Zinchenko inverting in, actually play him in the midfield. I think him alongside Jorginho probably would have given us a little bit more stability when Brentford was starting to build up a head of steam, building up a bit of momentum when it came to their shots, really, and sort of building that sort of base of chances. And then we sort of saw after 65 minutes, probably the moment of the second half for me. Wissa finds himself in a really good position in the box. The shot is going into the bottom corner. Ramsdale gets the slightest touch onto it and deflects it onto the post. Absolutely fantastic match-winning save. And again, love his sort of reaction, the way he sort of turned to the home fans and sort of gave them a double fist pump to kind of psych himself up, as we know he likes to do. But that was absolutely, this is the joy of having two really strong goalkeepers. You've got a guy in there who, without that save, I mean, who knows if that goes in. They were playing quite well at that time, Brentford. You'd probably look at them as potentially going to go on to win the game. So I can't speak highly enough of that save from Ramsdale. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and it sort of laid the platform. I think the team defended really well. I think the two centre halves were great, particularly Tomiyasu had a great block in the first half, and then he was, anything that being served up into the box, he was just heading out and blocking. And then we sort of made some of our changes. So I think we had Gabriel Jesus came on, and Sego Jr. came off, and then we also had Martin Odegaard coming on as well, who I thought was really, really good. He worked hard, covered a lot of ground, and just his choice of passing, shall we say, was really, really good. I noticed that he was able to kind of relieve the pressure by just playing a really clever little flicked out ball and kind of put himself around, across the pitch and working hard. And I think that's the great thing about you've got these players on the bench. They just bring that kind of sense of calm and experience to things. And then we had a great counter attack. We had Zinchenko released Kai Havertz down the left hand side. Great ball by Zinchenko it was, and then Kai Havertz cuts the ball back to Reece Nelson. That's on his wrong foot. Well, we say it's his wrong foot. It wasn't his wrong foot when we played Bournemouth back in March, but he just sort of dragged his shot wide of the post. But and then Gabriel Jesus releasing Eddie Nketiah, who looked like he wasn't going to reach the ball, and was able to kind of poke the ball goal bound, and Flecken made the save. So yeah, we did have a couple of chances, but I'd say second half it was a little bit more on the counter attack. It wasn't really kind of as anything to do with our possession and our build up play. It was more sensing an opportunity in specific moments and creating chances. But outside of the Wissa chance that Ramsdale saved, we then had like a really again another match winning moment. The ball sort of crossed in from the right hand side. Lewis Potter unmarked at the far post on the left hand stick, and there was talk about potential handball, but he hits the ball across Ramsdale. It's going in, and Kivior makes a block. Again, absolutely fantastic moment for him, and a real match winning save. But quite how he was unmarked when the ball reached him, I'll never know. I mean, it was actually quite poor when you think we're defending a 1-0 lead, and the ball's able to kind of just be casually clipped over from the right hand side, and you've got a player who's literally about probably 5 to 10 meters away from, maybe not that much, but away from the nearest opposing player, and is able to kind of get his shot away. But Kivior, in addition to that Ramsdale save, absolutely brilliant it was. And we then saw the final changes again. I know he hadn't played for a long while, but it was actually, I thought El Neni did quite well when he came on. It was great to see him back after a serious injury, and he even was implored by the Arsenal fans to have a dig, and fired the ball wide of the post. But I thought he worked really hard for the team. Again, I think the combination of him coming in and sort of sitting at the base of that midfield, just sort of managing the game. I thought the substitutions were quite, other than maybe sticking Zinchenko, doing a like for like, maybe putting him into midfield from the get-go to try and shield the back four. I felt some of the substitutions Mikel made towards the end were actually quite good. And we even had our old friend, Cedric Suarez came on. Hasn't played for Arsenal for over a year. I think he played 7 or 8 games at Fulham on loan. I do still wonder what the hell he's doing there, to be honest. He's clearly not going to get much of a game, but he came on, another defensive body, I guess, being kindly, and we were able to see the game out. I mean, I think overall reflections on the game, really enjoyable, good tempo to it. Had a sort of almost like a bit of a end of season sort of feel to it, or pre-season feel, where didn't feel like a lot of jeopardy on the line for Arsenal. And I'll be honest, I want Arsenal to win a trophy this year, and we're only in 4 of them. We started off, we're only a point worse off than we were this time last season in the Premier League, but there's only 4 things to go for, and I'm not saying it represents a wonderful season if we won the Carabao Cup, but I don't want to be bowing out of it in the 3rd round. And I do think since Arteta's won the FA Cup, I recall going out last year in this competition to Brighton at the 3rd round, losing to Southampton, losing to Aston Villa, potentially in the FA Cup as well. And our record in the domestic cup since we've won the FA Cup in 2020 has been absolutely atrocious. So I wanted us to go through, and I've got to be honest, it wasn't the draw that I wanted away against Brentford, but I was really proud with a lot of the players. I think 2nd string team, coming up against pretty much a first choice starting 11 for Brentford away from home. I think we managed the game really well in the first half, quieting the crowd down, looked really composed and compact, knocking the ball around with a bit of tempo, and rode our luck a little bit in the second half. But very rarely you're going to go through a game against that kind of opposition and have it all your way for 90 minutes. I felt that we rode our luck a little bit, but we defended really well, and were able to kind of manage the game out really well in the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes to see home the victory. The only thing I would say was a little bit disappointing. I'm still not seeing, when we had the Eddie chance and the ESR chance in the first half, I'm not seeing a lot of chance creation kind of happening. I can pretty much think of sort of those 2 chances in the first half, Jesus releasing Nketiah for a shot, and that counter-attack chance, and then that's pretty much it. I mean, in the first half, I I was almost thinking, oh, we could probably do with a second here, just to kind of, because we know that Brentford will probably come again and come out the second half and make things a bit trickier for us. But when we needed to do, this team does still show quite a lot of character. Defended really well, and we're able to kind of, see the game out. And I would say Ramsdale with that fantastic save and Kivior clearing, blocking on the line was absolutely fantastic. But, we talk about the strength and depth this season, and I think a lot of Arsenal fans have been kind of up in arms, at the start of the season, which is kind of mad, because like I say, we're 1 point worse off than we were last season. I think it's more not liking change, being worried about what this is going to look like, maybe scared about, do we wait and see how this plays out? Because obviously there's been a seismic change in the midfield, and having Partey at right back at the start of the season. So I think there's kind of a little bit of nervousness around that. But actually, we're not actually that far off last season. Tonight was a brilliant result. And you know what, even with all the injuries, for us to go to Brentford away with that second string, largely second string for starting 11, certainly, I think we've got to take a lot of comfort from that. Maybe we've got a better squad than we'd like to realise. I think it's just that Man City have started last season. They started a little bit slower, whereas this season they're in second gear and winning in the Premier League. I think it's the combination of that with this fear of the change that we've seen to how the team is kind of structured. But tonight was a really good result. Let's not try and hide that. We had a lot of players out injured. We started with a lot of players that don't play most weeks, certainly don't start, and we've gone to a tricky team away from home in the Premier League and come away with a clean sheet and a victory. It's not pretty all the time. We're not creating lots of chances, but got the job done, and that's the main thing. And onwards and upwards to the next one. So yeah, let's look forward now to Bournemouth, shall we? And I think they obviously lost 3-1 at the weekend to Brighton. Potentially a tie we could be winning. Should still be winning, I think, even despite the injuries. I mean, I'd like to think that maybe Partey and Martinelli are not too far away from being available again. I think we kind of need one of Trossard or Martinelli to come back as soon as possible. Declan Rice is rumoured to be available for the weekend. So I think it's really key that until all our players come back, we try and just get over the line in some of these games. And even if we're not going to be fully firing until after the international break, the next international break, I think that's just what we're going to have to do and see what kind of position we are in there. But if we just need to kind of, like I say, just kind of get to the, go game by game, as they say, as the awful cliche goes, and try and see what we can do, and just keep picking up results, no matter how ugly they are, until some of our key players come back from injury. I would say I'm still pretty confident with that game. Bournemouth, probably one of the sides you might expect to struggle. Again, if Saka's out for a bit, I don't know if we've really got the depth in the squad to replace that position specifically. I did notice as well, I don't think Eddie's really getting the service he needs as well. So I think there's a lot of work still to do in that attacking lineup. But fingers crossed. It was good to see Smith Rowe tonight. I think he looked solid in the middle of the park there, and obviously the more games he plays, the better he's gonna do. I wouldn't mind seeing him sort of in a number 8 position. I mean, again, I don't want to jump on the Havertz bandwagon too much, but I didn't really see again much from him tonight. A little bit kind of weak in possession, a little bit of a worry, not really influencing the game going forward. And I really do feel that we saw last season against Bournemouth, were able to score 2 really quick fire goals at the start of the game to basically win it within the first 20 minutes. So this is what having that kind of goal threat and someone that number 8 position can do for us. But anyway, let's see. We'll be doing a pod in the aftermath of that one, so obviously stay tuned for that. let's finish off on bold predictions in that case. So again, I've had a shocker. I always do. I had a win with a goal involvement from Fabio Vieira, who was literally nowhere to be seen tonight. It was interesting because apparently he was taken off due to tactical reasons rather than an injury in the North London derby. Did not get a look in, so I've lost that one again. But my good friend Jason, he had a win with a goal involvement from Reece Nelson, so he guessed correctly. It's his second correct guess of the season. I've now only had one. So yeah, it's not looking good for us, for our bank account, but it's looking good for our mental health charity of choice, which is Mind, of course. So yeah, when we get it wrong, we also get it right, if that makes sense, because that's where this podcast, what it's all about. It's all about mental health and the awareness and raising money for that as well. So the predictions we've got in place for the Bournemouth game, Jason's got Arsenal to win with a goal involvement from Martin Odegaard. I think that's not a bad shout when you consider that he did his stock in trade, arriving in the box last season, sweeping home inside the first 15 minutes. It was not a bad call from him there. And I've actually gone for a slightly more topical one. Ramsdale to start the game ahead of David Raya. You'll all know from having listened to this pod that I'm a massive fan of David Raya. I think he is a slightly better. I don't think it's a great deal in it, but I think he's a slightly better goalkeeper than Ramsdale. But I have to say Ramsdale was excellent tonight. He didn't have any saves to do in the first half. Second half, absolute match winner with that save. He tips onto the post from Wissa, and I thought his distribution was really, really good as well. I thought he had a fan. I actually think he was probably our man of the match, to be honest. So I think he probably does deserve now to start against Bournemouth. So we'll see. But it'll be interesting to say, because to see what happens, because Arteta's been talking very much about it being a meritocracy around who plays well gets the shirt. But it's clear now. I mean, maybe Raya, he wasn't available today due to the loan, but we'll definitely know on the weekend against Bournemouth whether or not he's got kind of his Premier League goalkeeper and his Champions League goalkeeper, and then maybe there's a goalkeeper that plays in the domestic cups. Maybe that is how it is actually going to end up shaking out in the long run. But yeah, we'll see. But certainly a good, hopefully, decent enough fixture on paper that we can go and win that and get back to winning ways in the Premier League. But I thought it was a really good win tonight. Like I say, just finishing off, I think second string, Brentford away, not an easy place to go. And I think the second string lads did us a really, really, did themselves really proud tonight. And let's see who we get in the next round of the Carabao Cup. And it's good to see us not choking in the early stages like we have been. And certainly one that I'm hoping to see Arsenal win this season. But that's it for now, Moody Gooners. Thanks very much for your time. Like, subscribe. The more views we can get on these videos, the more we can raise awareness of mental health, and the more we can raise money for charity. The plan is when we get enough views on these videos that we can actually give some of the views, a percentage of those views, the money we make from those, to the charity, in addition to our predictions. So please share amongst your networks and your friends and family, and we look to try and build that up across the channel. But yeah, thanks very much for your time. It's short and sweet tonight. Instant reaction. Well done, Arsenal. 1-0 to against Brentford, rather. On to the next one, and let's see what happens against Bournemouth at the weekend. See you soon, Moody Gooners. Take care now. Bye.